Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into today's first video. We're doing JMA Friday today, having a look at the weather potentially for the coming month. Then this afternoon I'm going to have to attempt to come up with a forecast for October for the month ahead forecast. So going to be a couple of videos today, and it's a little bit tricky actually this month, pinning down what's going on, as has been the case for many of the months over recent months. Has been rather difficult to work out quite what is going on, and this month is proving very challenging once again. The uncertainty is all probably down to the El Nino, which is probably throwing the climate models into a little bit of a disarray. But we'll have a look at the charts for the Japanese update anyway in a moment. We've got the JMA there. But before I get on with that, just very quickly to say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. Again, so just going to have a browse widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to read the article, and thanks so much for doing that. Also, video ads, most pages, they open up with the content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again. It's all having to pay for website, so thanks so much for getting involved. Thanks for doing that. So we'll start off with 500 millibar height anomaly charts from the Japanese model. These are broken down into weekly periods. The first week period will be taking us through the week that we're currently in, sort of the 1st to the 8th of October, so the first week of the month. Blue is extrapolating to low pressure, and orange, yellow, red extrapolating to high pressure. So for the coming week, we've got this deep trough in the Atlantic, quite an unsettled looking Atlantic setup. We've also got this ridge though sitting out to the east, so it's a little bit of a battleground type scenario, but we're probably being influenced more by the trough actually than we are by the ridge. The jet stream is going something like that, so the jet stream is very close to us and it's probably bringing in bands of rain at times. It's particularly unsettled for the north and the west, but even in the east we'll probably be getting some unsettled conditions coming through. The flow's generally from the southwest or south though, so it's not a cold setup. Now, as we go through to the next weekly period, I mean sort of the second week of October, 8 to 15, something like that, well, for this one, the Atlantic properly breaks through. So the ridge is being pushed back up towards the northeast, and then we've got this trough in the Atlantic, quite a deep trough, and the jet stream is clearly running through the country and going in that sort of fashion. So we're almost bringing the jet stream across the British Isles. It would be bringing in bands of rain. Of course, it would be bringing in some quite strong winds as well. That is an Atlantic push there, with westerlies very much in control, and the jet stream almost coming right through the country. And then we go through to the final 2-week period, and this will take us up to the end of or almost at the end of October. It'll be something like the 15th through to the 28th, I think. For this one, we find that the trough is sinking down almost over top of the country. We've got below average heights there sitting around here, so slightly to the west. There's also hints of quite a bit of northern blocking. Fair amount of yellow over the top of the pole. So that could be entrenching colder air actually into this trough. It's a bit of a difficult one to make out, but that is pretty extensive blocking over top of the North Pole being indicated there. So wouldn't be overly surprised if this trough is fairly cold, with some cold air coming out of the pole via this blocking, and perhaps entrenching itself into that trough. That's quite a unusual one, what we're seeing there. But I do think they're always a little bit difficult to work out, those 2 weekly charts that we get to at the end, because the signals rise are a bit weaker. But I do think reading between the lines, that could be a fairly cold trough. Now, CFS-V2 is going to look very different to that. So these are the 500 millibar height anomalies, again broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period, again, the week that we're in, 1st to the 7th of October. And ridge is being forecast to be right in across the country there. Now, already, this is looking a little bit wrong to me, because the shorter range charts, I've had a look at them very digitally, I won't go through them this morning, but the shorter range charts for sort of the next week, 10 days, are indicating very much the Atlantic to strike back next week. So already I think this from the CFS-V2 is overdoing this ridge. It's a fairly good reflection of what's going on right now, today, and probably tomorrow and Sunday as well. But after that, I think this ridge does break down as we go through into next week. The next weekly period, which goes from the 8th to the 14th, the ridge is in over Scandinavia then, trough of low pressure in the Atlantic, so this is closer to what the JMA is showing. The jet stream is coming in across the country and going rather like that, so it is more unsettled. But at this point, of course, the JMA hasn't seen a westerly. It's broken down that ridge of high pressure altogether by the second week of the month. So this sort of reflects what the JMA is showing for the coming week, if you like. And again, I think it's probably overdoing the extent of that ridge. And then we go through to the third weekly period from the 15th to 21st. Ridge is more or less in control here, but trough is actually being pushed back in the central part of the Atlantic with the jet stream going like that. So the ridge sort of takes over again into the third week of October. I do think the CFS is overdoing this ridge for the coming month, and it's still sort of hanging about as we go through into the 22nd to the 28th. This time it's more towards the south of the country in that sort of a situation, and the jet stream is going a bit like that. So I'm not convinced by this update from the CFS V2, I'm going to be honest. I think the JMA looks far more plausible with the ridge being broken down through the course of next week, and then we go into a more unsettled phase. I mean, possibly get some sort of colder weather being entrenched into that high pressure through the final week or so of the month. Now, the temperature anomalies stack up like this from the CFS V2, so the coming week is around average, maybe a little bit cooler. Then we go warmer than average as we go through to the 8th to the 14th in those orange and red colours. Warmer than average conditions for week 3. And as we go down to week 4, which is the 22nd to 28th, again, warmer than average temperatures being forecast then. So for CFS V2 is right, we're going to have a warmer than average month, whereas the JMA is much closer to average. It's much closer, maybe even a little bit below average. Actually, I've not had a look at the temperature anomalies from the JMA yet, but for the coming month. But I think it is significantly cooler than what the CFS V2 is showing. Precipitation anomalies from CFS V2, you won't be surprised, no, it's a pretty dry month coming up, so drier than average for week 1, and drier than average for week 2 as well. As we go through into week 3, we go closer to average for this one. So it does imply that as we get through to the second half of the month, we perhaps see slightly more unsettled conditions going through, but certainly wouldn't say it's a wet period by any means. And then near normal for week 4, going up to the end of October. So a fairly dry, fairly warm October coming up if CFS V2 is right, but keep in mind that the JMA is significantly more unsettled and cooler and wetter as well. This is how the temperature graph forecast looks for the coming 6 weeks from website webweb.net. This is for Birmingham from CFS V2. This is 16 Celsius just here. That's a bit above average for early October. So that's where we are now. And you'll notice that temperatures stay fairly mild really as we go through second half of the month. Dates on the bottom of the graph. Then we do get a bit of a drop down into the second half of the month, which is 21st of October just here, and temperatures go closer to average and maybe even a little bit cool for the end of the month. But inside of November, it actually turns quite cold for a time there. So that's the 1st of November, just there. We do get a bit of a drop in temperatures then. Possibly frosty around bonfire night. So pretty seasonable bonfire night coming up if that is right. But for the first half of October, anyway, temperatures are holding up really quite well. The 500 millibar high anomaly for October looks like this. Remember, these charts do change on a day-by-day basis, but the anomaly for October that the CFS V2 is showing this morning from webweb.net shows a ridge very close to us, sitting to the east of this trough in the Atlantic. So it backs up what it's looking at, really, but the CFS wants to have this high pressure more influential, certainly, than the JMA. As we go through into November, ridge is pretty much in control for November as well. It's in a different position. It's up towards the north and northeast. So that's colder. That's bringing the air in off the continent, which is rapidly cooling in November, of course. There will be a fair amount of dry weather, I think, with that, but probably cold and a lot of frost as well. And then December, quick sneak peek at that. Shows it all reverts to a westerly, actually. So we get the ridge going down towards Spain, low pressure deepens around Iceland, and we bring a flat westerly flow through. That'd be pretty mild, but potentially quite unsettled as well, but that's a very, very long way off, and we've already got discrepancies just for the coming month, because the JMA is quite clearly going for quite an unsettled month of it there, whereas the CFS-B2 wants to have this ridge much more influential. Now, I'm going to side, I think, with the JMA on this, because I think the CFS already, just for this coming week, is overdoing the extent of the ridge. I think next week will be significantly more unsettled than you would envisage looking at what the CFS V2 is showing. So let's go with the JMA for this update anyway, which implies that we're going to have quite an unsettled time of it, and maybe turn a bit cooler as well as we get through into the second half of the month. But it's a very, very tricky one to pin down. I've got to do the month-ahead forecast on the month-ahead forecast page this afternoon. It's going to be a bit of a nightmare trying to get that one together, but come back for that this afternoon for the official October forecast from GastroViz.com. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.